All right, it simultaneously says I'm live, says there's an error. I think we have audio. I think we're good to go. You guys can let me know in the chat. It's always nerve-wracking because we're never quite sure. I'm not quite sure what's going on with OBS. You just gotta hit the buttons and hope for the best. So if the audio is not crispy, let me know. What's up, Ben, Murr, Rich, BK, John? I think you guys can hear me, right? Just somebody type something in the chat just to confirm. Blake, what's up? I think you guys can hear me. Hope you guys can hear me. Maybe you guys can hear me. Okay, good. Thank you, Mick. McMahon. Don't want to cut that one off on accident. Okay. It is a landmine field out here these days. You gotta be careful what you say. People are gonna clip that. I was just saying somebody's name, I promise. It was innocent, okay? It was completely innocent. All right, good. How are we doing? Are we bullish? Are we, let's do our usual sentiment check. Thanks, guys. And gals, 0.3% gals. Karen who changes his or her name every stream. I'm not convinced that that individual isn't a bot. I don't know. We'll see. It does feel like things are getting a little euphoric in the crypto markets. Yeah, guys, smash that like button. Do whatever you need to do. Thanks for the atmosphere aficionados who've joined. I called it AA, but now I'm realizing that that's probably not a good idea because that has a different connotation. And I don't want to diminish that. Anyway, we got the leaf blowers going. You know, it's a Thursday. This is what happens. So I think the question here is, depending on how you trade, right? Are you feeling the bull between your legs, or are you nervous? I'm nervous personally. I'm always nervous when we go straight up and then we just kind of sit there and do nothing. Kind of like we have all year on Bitcoin. Bitcoin's really had like four rallies all year, and then it's just went sideways, right? So not much has happened. So it's hard for me to gauge sentiment these days because I just don't see it on Twitter anymore. I don't see people. I think they're all liquidated. I think they're all gone. I don't think there's anybody who's like hyped up. I just don't see it. Maybe I've just deleted them from my timeline, but it feels like price-wise, watching like Doge move today, watching AVAX and Solana moving up by itself, seems a little euphoric price-wise. Now, I think we're still like long-term bull. I don't think there's any question about that. But I agree, Ben. It does feel like maybe there's a little too much leverage in the system right now. The maxis are on Noster. I mean, I guess, John, but I got plenty of maxis in my timeline. But I don't see like altcoin euphoria, not like we used to. So maybe it's just super early. I am having a good day, Mr. Dorito. Thanks for asking. I think that was a question. We can check funding. CoinGlass is a great source for that. Funding has come down a lot, so that's good. If this is red, that means longs are paying shorts. If this is a super high number, that means longs are paying shorts a lot. Funding is pretty much reset across the board. So sentiment has definitely calmed down from Sunday, at the very least, when I talked about this on Setup Sunday. You can see on the graph, the funding rate has dropped over the past couple days here, which is good. It's kind of like overbought, oversold RSI type stuff. we generally don't want to see funding screaming in one direction or the other. Eventually, people will take profit. Eventually, people don't want to eat funding. And then it's just kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, just topples on itself, right? This is on like the leverage side. This isn't the spot markets, but so BTC funding has come way down. Solana funding was quite insane. This doesn't look right, this down move in funding, but what exchange is that? Binance? Anyway, the funding was insane. It's come down quite a bit. Now, this is still early for a bull market funding. Like, funding can get crazy, right? We've seen that. So you kind of have to gauge, like, is it a bull market type funding environment? I don't know, you know? But Sol's come down a little bit. Link was also crazy. Look at that. Look at how high that was. 0.2%. I think that's every 8 hours. But it honestly might depend on where you're trading. Anyway, so funding's down. That's good. Prices are coming down slightly. I'd argue that's good because eventually this thing is going to need to reset, right? It's gotten a little overheated. A little overheated. So I think generally not expecting too much here probably makes the most sense. Now, if we get some sort of ETF announcement, that's like ETF hopium in the back of my mind permanently until it actually happens, then sure, let's break 38 on BTC. Let's break 2K finally on ETH. Solana and Link, we'll see what happens on the day. I wouldn't bet on them moving more. I'm not betting on them moving more personally. So we'll see. The first step is getting the announcement, which I think is going to happen. Just, you know, that's the only thing like keeping me still kind of in it here, you know? And I was saying in the pre-stream, this doesn't feel like a time when you'd want to sell spot at all for me. Like, all I care about is just buying more and buying lower. I'm not selling anything. I don't think there's a need to here. I think the upside over many months is much too great to I mean, sure, you can like massage some 5K move here and there on spot, I guess. What I prefer to do is like what I did. I trimmed some of my Link position. I trimmed my Sol position. I just kept the AVE, rotated a little bit into BTC, a little bit into ETH, and then I have some bids on BTC lower. I don't have any margin open right now. Again, I don't think this just isn't for me. You know, kind of was nervous about last night when the markets kind of went up without me, but it just doesn't feel like you got to pick your battles. Just doesn't feel like now's the time. Yeah, Jake, that ETH, the no ETH move on the S1. At this point, I think people just want to see approvals and they want to see flows. You know, like we can file an S1 right here, right now, but it's just not going to matter. Nobody's going to care. And maybe for some of the frothier stuff, like a Sol S1, I don't think this is going to happen, but at least not from BlackRock. Something like that would surprise the markets. There's just no shot that gets approved because they being the SEC have said that they think Solana is a security. So you got to keep that in mind. And until Gary Gensler's out of there, there probably isn't a change in that stance, right? Yeah, S1 for Doge. I mean, hey, you could probably make a better argument for Doge not being a security than Solana, right? I don't think Doge had a pre-mine, did it? It might have. I don't know. So yeah, my allocation is still heavily Bitcoin at the moment. I just don't see a need to chase a bunch of alts around when things are already kind of frothy. And I don't want the ETF news to happen and then me say to myself, I knew better, I should have been allocated heavily for this, and I wasn't. So after that, then for me, I'm thinking, what is the next step, right? if this, then that. If this gets approved, which I think it will, if it happens by the end of the year, which I think it will, if it happens by the end of the month, probably not, but we'll see. I don't know. Tomorrow's like a soft deadline, the 17th. Then it's Thanksgiving. Then there's another comment period. It's just, it goes on and on and on with the bureaucracy and the paperwork. But we don't have a lot of time to get that approval by the end of the year. So it's probably going to be cutting it down to the wire, and they don't seem to want to rush it. So anyway, I want to be allocated for that in the event that that happens. I'm happy to trim alts that look completely overblown like Solana. On a cycle wise, Solana will probably do fine, like 2x, 3x from here, 5x from here. I don't know. But in the moment, I think this is the allocation for me. For a lot of people, they're going to see this and say, why are you holding BTC at all? That's not me. I think that's silly. Like, we're getting inflows from eventually all the money in the world, right? All the important institutional folks. So that's why I'm prepping for that. Anyway, Legacy's kind of angry. We'll take a look at some of those charts. I think this comes down to like weak consumer. There's some data points coming out that I think Walmart was saying something about they're afraid of consumer strength or something towards the end of the year. Oil looks like we're pricing in doom, right? I'll get to that in a second. Excuse me. Yields have been rolling over too. Over this past week, though, everything's moving up, and it's been really weird because Legacy had a huge day, and we went in the opposite direction, except for Sol. And then the next day we caught up. It's just been very strange in the correlation department. Not things you'd expect to see, I don't think. And of course, we got a abbreviated week next week, so you got to set your expectations accordingly a little bit. There's also seasonality. I forget who it was. Somebody commented about Q4 rallies for Bitcoin, Q1 rallies for ETH. So that's also in the back of my mind, right? I don't want to be misallocated for that stuff. ETH's already lagging. ETH that does better in Q1. Anyway, just a bunch of random data points. So yeah, CPI's down, core's down, the Fed's probably done. That's all good. I don't think this Middle East stuff got any better over the past week. I don't think the Ukraine story has gotten any better either. Xi was in the United States, which is kind of wild. That seemed to have went okay. It's hard to gauge, but we didn't end that meeting with here comes World War III. So at least not yet. The only other thing I think that's on anybody's radar is this Iceland volcano stuff, which may disrupt travel. Obviously, if you're in Iceland, it's going to be a mess, right? We'll see how impactful that is globally, but locally for them, obviously it's their entire livelihood. So I hope it's mild and things do not go insane over there. All right, let's get to some charts. Last night I was looking at some old videos. This is from January 2022. And if you haven't seen this, I'll put this in the link, or a link to this in the description of the chart, video, whatever. If you haven't seen this, I would watch this. You could literally watch this video and never see anything I ever do ever again. And I do all the analysis the same. It's like a clinic in everything that I think matters. As far as technicals, as far as fundamentals. And it's just interesting to go back and listen to that and how bearish I was. And it was correct, at the end of the day, but it's just crazy. Because at that time, the targets were pointing to like 20s and nobody wanted to believe it, including myself. So kind of an interesting little time capsule. And just another reminder for people, if you're not keeping some sort of journal, private Discord, saved messages on Telegram, written something anywhere, at least once a week, 5 minutes, write something down. Dear diary, today Solana went to infinity. and I don't know why, anything. So, yeah, I'll throw this in the chat too. But part of the reason why I do these videos is just to literally go back years later and like look at this stuff. It's kind of weird. And anyway, interesting. All right, so we'll start off with legacy stuff. The dollar sold off a ton over the past week on the Fed likely being done. Rates have rolled over because the Fed is likely done. The market came to this conclusion because of inflation, because of CPI coming down considerably. I thought everybody looks at the estimates. I mean, look, anybody can look at the Fed nowcast ahead of time, right? Like we can go to this any day of the week and we can see what core is at, what CPI is at. Now you could argue the print was lower than expected, but it's not like some unknowable thing. I don't know. The whole idea of an efficient market hypothesis is pretty silly when you find some of this stuff. So I guess just having the final number is what people wanted. I don't know. But good news that it's coming down on a year-over-year basis. That's just the rate of change. Obviously, we all know purchasing power over multiple years is down like 25%, at least in the United States. So dollar sold off. I was expecting crypto to moon off of that. Didn't happen on the day. It happened the next day. I don't know if at this point we're just so overbought on crypto land that people are just waiting for the ETF stuff because nobody's here. It's like what? It's 80 of us in chat here. It's like 500 people on Twitter and everybody in the mainstream media making fun of us 24/7, They're still talking about SBF, which look, I get it. It was potentially the biggest, if not the biggest scam, Ponzi, whatever in history. So I understand that, but we're still here. We're still doing things on this side. Anyway, so this looks bearish. Should continue to be bearish. The cloud called it. The pattern called it. We had talked about this rolling over, I think Sunday and even before that. And 103 is the level. As long as the DXY is bearish or flat, that's great for crypto. The worst is obviously DXY going to infinity. So whatever it does from here, we'll take, I don't think it's going to retrace to 105, but I will take it. So if this gets truly bearish below 103, that will act as a tailwind, for crypto, unless we're just in global recession and everything sells off, right? Like COVID. So we'll see. We'll see. Now, oil, right? If I was on a deserted island and I saw oil in the dollar this week, I would think, man, it's over for the United States. Okay. I would say globally it's over. Something's going on, right? I don't want to let the doomers win here, but yeah, I don't think this is what people expected with two major wars and arguably the U.S. in forever wars elsewhere, Syria. Anyway, it certainly doesn't look bullish for oil. This was a head and shoulders weeks ago. Continues to break down. Continues to look angry. All the SPR doomers quiet down here. They're not saying a word. Have you seen an SPR chart? I sure haven't. Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Hopefully they start refilling the SPR around 70. Now if oil gets below 70, even better. If oil goes to like 65 or whatever, hopefully they can start refilling that thing. But maybe they won't because there's an election. I don't know. Point is, technicals look terrible still for oil. And I think, to me, this is pricing in global slowdown for sure. which is good on the CPI side, but may not be good for risk assets if, we're in a global recession, which by some metrics we are. So that was kind of all that really matters to me. We'll take a look at the S&P and the Qs, I guess, but for Bitcoin, there's not really much to say, even here, because if you're here now, like when nobody's here, I don't think you care about anything below 50, Even then, I think people are looking for a new all-time high. So at this point, you would assume that 100K is on the table or higher, at the very least an all-time high retest eventually within the next 18 months. I don't think that's wild to assume that, at least an attempt. We'll see what happens with the flows, with the products, blah, 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 right? But you'd think there's going to be some sort of attempt higher. This is a power law corridor and the 2-year moving average multiplier. It doesn't look oversold. It looks oversold. It doesn't look overbought. I always screw those up in my head. Benny, my journal, you're watching my journal, bro. This is my journal. We're just here talking about charts. That's my journal. Anyways, this looks really good long term. I don't think there's anything else to say there. One thing to note, like a year and a half from now, is how does this look, right? Because right now this isn't really going to tell you anything but give you buy signals. So, that's what I'm doing, right? I'm not doing anything different. Daily cloud and yearly pivots. We've hit the yearly pivot to the penny, like for 3 days now. So not expecting too much on that front. Call me crazy, but I think the pivots work pretty well. I was talking about a rising 3 methods, and it did look like we wanted to go higher, but we just didn't, So you got to trade what's in front of you. I was ready to pull the trigger at 38 for more if we went higher, but we didn't. So we might still go higher. Until we do, I'm just going to sit here. Not really trade anything on leverage for sure. So I've got bids at 32, which is the daily Kijun on the cloud here. This still is screaming overbought conditions on the cloud. This blue line and this red line. We've had this 3 times already this year. Kind of similar, pop it and sit it for 2 weeks and then drop it. What is that game? Bop it? I think that's it, right? Where you put it on your ankle, or no, that's like skip it, bop it. Anyway, we don't have to go to 32. I like 32. That's where my bids are. I don't really care, right? I'm not here for the next 3 weeks. I'm here for the next year and a half, 2 years, whatever. So it doesn't really matter. Let it do its thing. But the cloud says 32. 32 would be a gift, a massive gift if it happened. And it just doesn't look like we want to go higher right now, We'll see what the consolidation looks like in a week or two. But my guess is we're going to find out pretty quickly here on whether or not everything starts to roll over. So cloud says lower for the moment. It says we're overbought. Yearly pivot says unless we've got strength at 38, we're probably not going to go any higher. So we probably just sit here for a little bit. Here's this TK cross again. Just it's hard for me to want to add leverage when I see stuff like this. It just says be careful, It's a type of divergence, definitely. And as some of you are saying in chat, like we got a long. This is a long time we're going to be here, right? So yeah, we might get weeks where it's plus 10K, minus 2K. Like you don't want to blow yourself out on this little tiny move before the big stuff happens. The multi-week stuff, the multi-month stuff, So just cool it. I'm not saying you're not cooling it. Chat seems to be cool. I don't know. I wouldn't try to force anything here, personally, across the board. Pitchfork still looks fine. We're in the bullish half of the pitchfork. We're above the 50-200 cross. The midpoint of the pitchfork is all the way down at what, 32-ish again, 200-day moving average is at 30K. Like, we are fine. Let this thing chop around, chop back down. It's not going to go in a straight line. 42 is the weekly level. 47 is another weekly level. No rush. No rush. Still in the weekly cloud. Exactly, Benny. Embrace the pullbacks and chill. Put some bids where you think things are going to happen and just let it be. We've gone up, 5 weeks in a row on most coins now. It makes sense that we would relax a bit eventually, right? This is just probabilities. There are only so many times where you can just go straight up for weeks and weeks and weeks. And it feels like a good point up here to just relax for a little bit. Weekly cloud still likes 42. We're still in the weekly cloud. This all looks good. This is what we want to see. I mean, you should have, I'm guessing most people weren't here, but sitting through the weekly cloud in 2015, let me tell you, that was super fun. This was 250 days, I think. Something like that, 200 days. 200 days of literal nothing. Okay, so if you're impatient here, trust me, it can get way worse as far as lack of volatility. And we've already had a lot of low volatility periods this year. Anyway, I think we're fine. Looks fine. I'm not worried about it. On the weekly, we could go all the way down to 28 and be fine. Not something I'd want, but that would be fair game on the weekly cloud. I still like 42 over 28 personally. See, traumatized wick. He's got bids at 50% retracement. That's basically the daily Kijun. Yesterday, I think, I don't know why all the days are blowing together, but I pulled up the lower time frames because we'd been moving so quickly, and there was this really angry rounded top. To me, this is less about like which pattern is it exactly, and more about what could it be and what does that likely suggest. What is the sentiment? Like this wasn't a perfect ascending triangle, but it was close enough. This isn't a perfect inverted Adam and Eve, but it was good enough. And anyway, we retraced, bounced. We're trying to retrace all that again. So the question here is like, is this an inverted Eve Adam? Like, or am I just crazy? You guys can tell me, but not a common pattern. I can tell you that much. I don't know if I've ever seen it. Certainly haven't seen one of these while it's forming. It's bearish. It's not bullish, Again, like I can't get excited about this. I can't want to buy this diag. I just don't think the market is ready for more at the moment. But, I could be totally off here. So it does look like we want to just retrace a little bit. We want to retrace, let it happen. Let the bearishness wash over you. Okay. Keep your pure bullish heart. Just let it happen. And then there's Solana on the 8-hour. These are just random time frames. It doesn't really matter, but just trying to visualize the move. It had 3 drives, which typically is what you see. You get a breakout right at a level at 25, and then you get your 3 drives. Sometimes it measures to be like a perfect 1618, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. In any event, this whole time, it's a giant bear div This current high is a bear div again. So I just, not something I'm ready to jump into, right? That's just me. From a risk reward perspective, to me, it seems like this thing wants to retrace a bit. And I'll look at it on the daily cloud, but I think the level's like 41. And you really don't want to be on the wrong side when when something like this goes against you, you know, especially on leverage, because it has been acting very weird. So I don't know who's buying this or why. There doesn't need to be a reason, but it's easier to know the direction when you can see if the buyers are gone or not, you know, like I don't know what's going on here, but just the technicals look a little weak. And then there's Link. Again, some random time frame, low time frame, doesn't matter. This does not look immediately to me like a bullish pattern. You probably know what I'm going to say. It looks like a head and shoulders. But again, I can't see this and think, yes, this is a great long all the way up here, you know? Like this does not look like a chart that wants higher highs right now. The breakout was at like 9-ish. The measured move target was at 14-ish. That's where it is. That's where it hit. To me, the moves on all this stuff, it's kind of done for now. So it's either going to need news, catalyst, or a retrace. I think both of those things are more likely than price just going off on its own. All right, let me catch up on chat. So I probably sound very bearish. I'm not that bearish. I just think for me as a trader, I want a retracement to feel comfortable getting into the market, you know? And then there's ETH. Has ETH done anything? Is it back below back below 2K again? I had a leveraged ETH position and I let it go 2 days ago now at like just above 2K. It was like 2030 or something. Maybe 2040. Anyway, just not the time. It was still I opened it lower, but I think ETH hits 3K. The question is just, you know, is anybody going to buy it first? I don't know. You know, it's even pulling this up. Maybe it's just because I've seen this stuff over and over, but I can't get excited about anything double toppy. No, this looks ugly. Looks horrible. You know, looks absolutely horrible. We can look at ETH on the daily. I figured if I prepped some charts ahead of time, I could cut the video length down a little bit, because these 2.5 hour streams are probably killing people as far as on the rewatch. So ETH on the retrace would be 1830. Oh man, what an ugly set of candles, huh? There's that yearly pivot again. It just doesn't look good, you know? Doesn't look good. Nobody's buying ETH. I don't know what's going on. I was told staking was going to moon ETH. The funny thing is, I think it will. When the bull market takes off, I have zero doubts on my mind that the pumpamentals, Ponzi-nomics, whatever you want to call it, are absolutely going to send this to stupid prices. But until then, it's kind of just doing a bunch of nothing. The other problem here is the layer 2s are kind of stealing ETH's thunder on the transaction basis. I just checked yesterday. ARB and Optimism together are surpassing ETH in the transactions department. So there's like, why do you own ETH at all, right? If the idea is to own ETH for the world computer stuff and to do stuff with it, and you're not even doing stuff with it collectively, then, this is what you get. You get just lame price doing a bunch of nothing. Anyway, trend still looks good. I still think it goes to 3. There's lots of reasons why this goes higher eventually. You know, I guess we could draw the levels out on the ascending triangle. Something like this, right? So maybe it does something in the triangle again. I don't know. You just can't. I feel like you can't be heavily allocated to this because it's done nothing, right? Sure, it's up like 4 weeks in a row, but relatively, it's done. What's up, Joey? It's done very little relative to all these other alts, and there's just no volume. You know, this is just Binance, but where's my volume button? Like, where is all the volume on Binance? Is it just permanently gone because the market makers are gone? But look at this. Volume's just dead. This looks like a 2017 alt, right? There's just nothing there. Not yet, anyway. So the market's just not excited about ETH right now. And that's okay. You've got 25 other pairs and alts to trade. So I think ETH does go eventually. You just gotta be patient. At least that's what I'm telling myself. I'm telling myself, you're not wrong. The market's wrong. This has to move. It's ETH. It's number 2. I still think it will. You know, I've talked about this every day probably at this point, but between the measured move, the cloud, and the pivots, I like 3K. It does best in Q1, so maybe pre-halving, it moves for pre-Bitcoin halving. I can't look at this and think to myself, I don't want to be allocated. You know, I know this is probably going to move up eventually. So anyway, I still like it. It just is very angry. Very, very angry. Something else you can do on, I was trying to see, was it Solana? You know, if you're looking for reasons to be bearish in the near term, like, what do the candlesticks look like? This is a crazy run. Look at this. Look at these 3-day candles for Solana. Just 33 straight days of green. I think I had said for Solana there was a tweezer top here. We broke up from that, but it looks like this is probably going to pull back. It is in the weekly cloud. It will hit 140. Mark my words, between now and 2025, it will hit 140. Daily cloud, like 43 would be the level for Solana. 200-day moving average is basically the cloud at 25. I don't think it would be crazy to see like a 25% down move. What is that's a 30%? 33%. It's a 33% down move, potentially. That's what the cloud is saying. So look, this is overbought. It's got divs all over it. It didn't have a div until the most recent high on the daily, but that's definitely, you know, it might be tough to see because my face is in the way, but it's a higher high on lower momentum. That's a div. What does the volume look like? Volume's also declining. At this point, I just feel like I'm overanalyzing this, but I don't think this goes higher, personally. I'm not expecting it to. Anyway. Is there anything else on Solana? I don't think so. Solana, Link, what's up, Maverick? Solana, Link, ETH. What else can we talk about? It's on my list here. Link's down 8% on the day. Aave down 4%. Oh, AVAX, yeah. AVAX has had quite the move. Still moving up. But again, look, when you learn about candlesticks and chart patterns, there are just certain things you see that, for me, tell me, hey, you know what? Probably not the time. When you see a shooting star, when you see an inverted dragonfly, whatever you want to call this, not a bullish close on the daily. Most likely, we got like 4 hours still, but so right off the bat, right? 4 hour, probably a div here if I had to guess. Let's look. There's a tiny bear div on low time frames, but it's certainly there, you know. Is this enough for a 30% pullback? I don't know, but it's going to prevent me from jumping into this thing just yet. I don't think anybody's looking at what AVAX did over the past couple weeks and thinking, man, this looks like a great time to get in. I mean, maybe somebody somewhere. Seoul did have a, not festival, what's it called? Conference or something, right? But that was a couple weeks ago. You're right, Christian. I'm funny. Everybody's bags live. Anyway, weekly, like, it looks strong. It's got a ton of room here on the cloud eventually. What I'd want to see from something like this as a trader, like, the best trade is going to be digging into this cloud somewhere down here into next year and then sending it to like 80, right? But for me, that doesn't mean holding AVAX right now. Alternatively, this could do one of these, right, into the cloud. Here for me, there's just no trade on the weekly, but yeah, 80, sure. 80 by 2025, you know? I think it's easy to see the potential for these charts just based on a 50% retrace. It's just allocating properly, rotating properly, or just doing none of that and just sitting in Bitcoin, right? Which is what most people prefer. Man, everything's angry today, huh? TLT's up, gold's up. Everything else is risk off. BitX down 10, it was up. This is the leveraged Bitcoin ETF. It was up 12% yesterday. Now it's down 10. Again, it is worth looking at stuff that isn't crypto native because you do get different signals, but not something that looks super happy, you know? Anyway, we'll get back to AVAX. So daily on the AVAX, what would be the level? 16? I think that makes sense because isn't that where the bottom of the channel? Sure, 15, 16. But I don't think anybody, again, I hope not. I could be wrong. I don't think anybody's seeing any of this and thinking, yeah, let me go all in, lump sum, let's go. I don't know. What about the yearly pivots on AVAX? All the way up there. Yeah, everything just looks overbought to me. I don't think there's any other way to say it, honestly. All right, let me start writing some of these requests somewhere so I don't lose them. We'll go through the chat. So if you want me to look at anything, just let me know. I gotta figure out when I'm gonna write this down. Balancer, that's one I haven't heard in a while. All right. Karen / no backstitch says she has met, or he has met Ledger in person. I'll have to ask him. I thought I was wearing scrubs. My hair's a mess. I had to put something on my hair. Ask blah, blah, blah. All right, CAS, INJ. Now my guess is for most of these, they are going to be pretty overbought. That's my guess. Sol, Mike says he's bearish on Sol, went up for 5 weeks straight. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Yeah, I don't know. This whole airdrop thing with Sol, maybe that's why people are buying Sol? I don't know. Yeah, we can look at Doge. What else we got in here? Link we looked at. Woo BTC. That's a exchange token, right? I think so. Can't wait for the revised CPI. Yeah, nobody will care, unfortunately. You only care about the initial day. Rune we'll look at. Ren. What else? Oh, coin. Like 17 people want me to look at coin. Let me look at that for sure. Yeah, we can look at stocks. Richard, if you're still here. Richard Hudson. GME. You didn't really ask me about GME, did you? I mean, we can look at it. We can definitely look at it. I just got to think the people trading meme stonks just ain't here no more, but I could be wrong. Rune, yes. Weekly cloud on the total market cap. All right, let's do that. Total weekly cloud. Yeah, I mean, hey, that's a good argument for. I mean, this is Bitcoin and ETH, right? That's most of the total market cap. But that's a good argument for higher, for sure. I don't know if Mark wants me to look at Ripple, but because he mentioned it, I will. Guys, I just don't know why anybody would want to hold that or trade that. Ray, Injective will do. Near, ICP, Square. Disney actually looks good. PayPal, we'll take a look. Take a look at Disney too, why not? Where is that dotted line? How do you put the dotted line on the chart? If you go to trend line, you can edit your lines here. It's probably super tiny on the stream to see, but if that's what you're talking about, Keith. Bear Bull comes here for the XRP bashing. All right, let's do it. Let's get it over with. I just don't know why. It's funny because the CEO, Brad Garlic House, Brad Garlic Bread, Brad Garlic House, he gets quoted all the time in the press. And if your coin has a CEO, that's a problem. And they'll say to me, Josh, it's a business. It's not the coin. Well, don't call it the same thing. It's not called the same thing, Josh. They changed the name years ago. Well, people think it's the same. And that's the whole point. Purposeful brand confusion. Anyway, look, it's got an upward diag. I don't know. Like, what do you want, right? What do you want, Ripple people? The problem with Ripple is there are so many tokens that at some point, like Ripple at $2 with the number of tokens in circulation is worth more than like most of the S&P, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense. So at some point, you have to use like your sanity meter and say, all right, this, maybe in a rip-roaring bull market, we may see, like, look, if we're just being honest with the TA, let's take the all-time high to the 2020 low, okay? This is where I would want Ripple to go. The problem is, again, the market cap would be insane. It would be probably worth the most of any company on the planet, okay? Yeah, Maverick, that's another thing. There's a lot of influencers talking about Solana, but even then, is there even that many people here? Is there even that many people here paying attention to the influencers, you know? So look, Ripple looks fine, but I just don't know why. Why would you bother? Why? Anyway, it is interesting to look at all this stuff just from a technical, um, like a broad technical understanding. Because like this scoop de whoop thing, you don't see a lot of, just like the inverse version on BTC. So maybe this Adam and Eve's at the top. I don't know. I just it had that fake ETF announcement. That's how bad they want Ripple to go up. Not Ripple, the company, but whoever was trading this, right? Just very clearly price manipulation on nonsense. But it does trade technically. You know, it had this inverted Adam and Eve at the bottom. It did make a daily edge to edge. Like, look, you can trade this. There's nothing wrong with it. I just personally wouldn't hold on to it for any period of time. Yeah, Ripple wants to be the CBDC of the world. All right, let's take a look at coin. So I feel about coin the way I feel about a lot of altcoins. Like, do you like Coinbase? Is the exchange, does it treat you well? How are the fees? How's the markets? How's the liquidity? Does it offer what you want in an exchange? For most people, they're probably answering yes to all those questions, or, you know, positively. They're thinking of Coinbase positively. They see Coinbase in the news and they're fighting the good fight. I just mentally way too much baggage for Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, for me. Like, I don't view them as a positive company for the space, but they're the company I onboarded with first. So I know a lot of people are rooting for them. I don't think you can't not root for them if you're in crypto. I just wish we had better competition for them in the United States. Anyway, so as a business, you know, you can be high on the base train. They're going to bring all these users and they're going to bring all these fees. Have you heard anything about base lately? I haven't. I think the big thing in their earnings was circle yield dollars, staking dollars, some subscription stuff, which I think took over volumes or something. Anyway, just random things to consider. They clearly have VC money and regulators on their side, at least trying to get regulators. The chart still looks like, and it should, by the way, it should go up considerably if BlackRock is using Coinbase for custody of their Bitcoin ETF, of their ETH ETF. I don't think there's any reason to be bearish on this if you're bullish on the ETFs. If you're bullish on the flows and institutions entering the space, I don't think there's any reason to be bearish on Coinbase. From a technical perspective, it's not like screaming bullish. It's above the daily cloud, which is good. It's below the 108 pivot. You can see it had this inverted head and shoulders breakout, hit that target, and then immediately just sort of pulled back. Now, I think I've seen some people measure the inverted head and shoulders like this, maybe. I guess, you know, I'm not going to stop you. That would measure to the next pivot, which is 185. So I think that would be the next level I'd be wanting, which is a 2x-ish from here. If I'm getting into coin here, which I don't think is a bad like legacy trade. If you want crypto exposure, I think the non-crypto native people are going to use it as crypto exposure, right? So it looks fine. I just think as a business, I just do not like them as a business. personally. But it looks okay. You know, I don't want to bash it too hard and then have it like go to 300 on me. But it's been noisy, it's been choppy. Wall Street has generally been bearish on crypto. As a sentiment gauge for institutional allocators looking at this price action, you know, you kind of see where their mind is at. Their mind is not at bullishness just yet, at least for me, because this is pulled back so many times over and over again, you know. But the daily looks good. Weekly cloud has a level at 200. There you go. So 185, 200, 215. You could probably set some blind asks up there, honestly. Like, I wouldn't doubt that between now and 2025, we hit those levels for coin. I don't know anybody who's bearish Coinbase. I don't know any good arguments for it other than like regulation. I just don't know why you would be, considering when they went public, that was like the top, right? That was literally the top of the market. So they haven't been through a bull cycle yet on the stock, you know. Anyway, looks good. It's got fundamentals. Unfortunately, it's got technicals as well. I like 200 between now and we'll say 6 months after halving. I bet you we go to 200 on Coinbase between now and 6 months after. Hey, Builder. So it does look good. It does look good. I think it's not something you're going to get rich quick on, but it looks fine. You know, if they get, let's say we get the BlackRock ETFs online and they get some blowout earnings on BlackRock custody or something, right? Because they're going to get a percentage of whatever the BlackRock AUM ends up being. So I think you have to think about like, how could Coinbase do better? And I can't think of a better partner in the world than BlackRock, you know? So it all kind of hinges on that a little bit. But even if they lose BlackRock, they're likely to at least get some volume to come back to the exchange. Anyway, so Coinbase looks good, honestly. Unfortunately, Coinbase looks fine. And Kraken, I kind of expect Kraken to go public this cycle. I don't have any knowledge of that. I don't have any insider information or anything, but I think we're going to see more companies try to go public. Circle, the company behind USDC, has already said they're going to try to go public. Maybe we see blockchain.com go public. They just raised a bunch of money. Who else is even big enough? Binance talked about going public years ago. I don't think that's ever going to happen, but hey, I could be wrong. All right, let's look at GME, only because somebody asked me to look at GME. Was I looking at the wrong cloud? Hold on, I gotta go back. Somebody in the comments is going to tell me. You spent 30 minutes on coin and you were looking at the wrong cloud. Honestly, the cloud doesn't really matter. Like, the numbers, they're close enough. But again, the weekly cloud, 200 on the target there. Daily cloud looks fine. Anyway, coin looks good. We like the coin. We like the coin. Yeah, Gensler would love that application for Binance, wouldn't he? Again, one thing I like to do, just pull up the chart. What is your immediate snap reaction, right? The first thing I see on this chart is bearish, sure, but it's also, you know, a falling wedge channel thing. It's not happy. For me as a business, I haven't used GameStop 20 years, 25 years. Like, it's been a long time since I've actually bought anything at GameStop. So anecdotally, I don't know why they exist as a business, but yeah, this does not look super happy to me. And there's a yearly pivot at 7. Maybe that's where we go. There are actually a lot of legacy charts that have this falling wedge characteristic. You know, not all of them went to 100 from 0, but there are a lot of falling wedges. This is definitely an angrier looking falling wedge. Super bearish on the cloud, way down here. You could argue it's oversold on the cloud, but it was in insane levels of overbought for a very long time. You can see it never got back above the weekly cloud once it broke down. Kind of interesting, but definitely bearish there. I wouldn't look at it on the daily. I think it's too noisy personally. I think you got to look at that falling wedge and then stick to the high time frames. Maybe this is trying to div out a little bit. If we're trying to look for stuff. Again, even if you're not trading this stuff, it's a good practice tool. This is a divergence, right? On this low time frame. So maybe it sticks within the wedge and then bounces to the top and then bounces down and then bounces back, right? Something like that. I wouldn't buy this just because it doesn't make sense to me, but I could understand the technical arguments to do so. Bottom of the wedge, support, bull div. What percentage is this down from the high? That's 90%. Jesus. The breakout would be a 98%, back to $1.50. Anyway, so yeah, falling wedge, bearish. Not for me, but I could understand the argument. I could definitely understand the argument. Yeah, look at that volume too. Just you can see the Wall Street Bets fingerprint on this relative to now. Just absolutely no volume whatsoever. Might as well look at AMC while we're here. This is the fear. If you're trying to buy a wedge or something, and maybe you argue this isn't a wedge, this was a channel. I don't know. This is always the fear, it just doesn't bounce where it should. And then it makes a new, what is it, all-time low? Yeah, that's an all-time low. Doesn't look great. Doesn't look great. You could argue bull div. I think I see a little tiny one there. It's just, why? When's the last time you've been to the movies? Anybody? I haven't been to a movie theater in definitely before COVID, but even before that, I didn't go often. Anyway, AMC looks turbo bearish. I wouldn't be surprised if they go under. I just wouldn't touch it. Wouldn't touch it here. Square. Square, I think, kind of looked like the IWM a little bit. IWM is the not micro, but small cap index. Square does have a crypto component to it. They sell BTC through the app, Cash App. They do make a lot of money selling Bitcoin in Cash App. So if Bitcoin starts to turn around, they may do better, but this thing looks angry too, It kind of looks like that biotech chart, XBI. All this stuff kind of looks similar. It's just not for me, You're probably either going to be ranging or barely making new highs, wanting to break down. Charts that look like this, I just think your money's better elsewhere, personally, like 5% yield. But back to Square, I think we want them to do well. I don't think that's a question. I don't know. It's just, angry, ranging, super bearish generally. I think most of these fintech apps look like this, where they're super bearish. PayPal's another one that had this falling wedge to it. Kind of broke down. I mean, what a chart, right? What a freaking chart. Down 82%. I don't know what would make me want to buy this, honestly. I guess it would have to be above the cloud, right? The cloud's been right the entire time. It was arguably correct the entire time up except for COVID. So until it's back above the 2-day cloud, some high time frame cloud, I don't see an argument here, right? Maybe you're hoping for oversold mean reversion stuff, but I think it needs more time. Now, if we contrast these charts with Disney, again, not from like we're actually trading this stuff, but if you're trying to learn maybe what to look for, Disney in a similar position, trying to make sure my head's not in the way, it was down 60% in this mega falling wedge above the daily cloud now, starting to look okay. I think it's gapped up a few times, so it's might need some retraces if the economy's falling apart. I can't imagine Disney does super well. It had an inverted head and shoulders at the bottom, right? These are all the things you want to see. You want to see lots of evidence for trend reversals. So I didn't see that on GME, AMC, Square, PayPal. Not yet. Not yet. All right, let's look at Woo. People keep asking me, Christian's asking me about the Woo. What's the best? Probably Binance. You said Woo BTC, but let's look at the USD chart first. Not a lot of history. Are they burning coins? You can see like over and over and over again the bottom attempts on this. Adam Eve, Adam Eve, Adam Eve, Adam Eve, giant Adam Eve, right? This looks like it wants to go up one day. You could say this whole thing is some sort of ascending triangle, right? So, take off the cloud. The cloud's not going to help you. It's been ranging for over a year. I don't hate this. It doesn't look awful. It's gross, but it doesn't look awful. What does the Woo BTC chart look like? Also, you see the that Adam and Eve thing, right? Sure. I wouldn't touch it because again, I'd rather be allocated to Bitcoin for the news catalyst that we hopefully see. The Christmas present to us all. The news catalyst of the ETF. But yeah, charts like this, this is how AVAX started. This is how ADA started. This is how Solana had an inverted head and shoulders, but you get the point. Like, you need to see something. If we go back to the GME chart, right? I've talked about this before, but it's not really a surprise that GME had the move it did after consolidating in a tight horizontal for as long as it did. Like, you kind of need the conditions for a move higher. And this had Wyckoff, arguably. It had Adam and Eve. It had a lot of different stuff, all of which helped it move, right? Because this was coming off a mega parabolic move to the bottom. You had people loading the boat short over and over and over again, expecting them to just go out of business, and they got squeezed. So, different type of case. In any event, you still want to see something bottomy, Did not talk about Wi-Fi yet. I don't know why people are. Maybe it's just because it's up so much. But there's been a lot of people asking me about Wi-Fi. Okay, let's look at Rune. I think Rune might be up the most out of any coin this year. I don't know what this line is from, but I like it. right? What is the year to date on this percentage wise? 400% year to date. That's got to be the most, right? I don't even think Sol is up that much. Oh, Sol's up 500. My bad. So okay, maybe Rune is second. I don't see too many people talking about Rune, so it's kind of crazy that it's at 400%. But let me just put the cloud back on here. Cloud's like my crutch. If I don't have the cloud, what do I even do? You know, I'm just blind. You know, what's the trade? What's left here? What's the market cap? That's always the next question, right? What is the market cap? Thorchain. Where are you, Thorchain? Market cap is 1.9 billion. Not horrible, right? It's not, you know, 15 billion like Ripple or whatever it is. It's, like I said, it's already at 400% of the year. The question is, what do you want from here, you know? I would want to see this reconsolidate or just full send to 12. That seems unlikely, but 12 is definitely the level. The problem is sitting, like similar to Sol, right? You sit in Sol for 140, or do you take profit a little bit and just wait it out, right? Because by the time we actually get to 12 on Rune, that may be the moment we go to 24, right? That may be just bullish continuation. It just depends on what it looks like. Obviously, this looks very bullish still. It's not for me. You know, it's up 5 weeks in a row. It's 400% on the year. But yeah, it looks really good, right? Let me just reorganize this. Yeah, it looks good. I would have to look at the on-chain stuff to see if anybody's actually using it. Because that's the next step for all of this. Like, okay, prices are up 300, 400, 500%. Is anybody using anything now? Solana, looking at you, you know, AVAX looking at you. Is anybody doing anything? How's the TVL look, right? Anyway, just looking again, AVAX up 5%. The entirety of the world down 5 to 10% today, but AVAX is up 5. Just wild. Absolutely wild. Exactly anointed. You know, you've got people who are going to come into a chart like this, think it's going to go to 12 now, get trapped, sell when it goes to 350, and then buy it again when it goes to 12, get trapped, sell it when it goes to 6. Yeah, like that's what people normally do. So try not to be those people. You know, try not to sell the bottom, buy the top. But it looks fine, you know? Like look, if you're up 400% in a leverage position, I would take profit a little bit, 20%, 25%, something. It doesn't look super happy on the daily, but it has consolidated and kept going for a while now. A tiny bear div, tiny on the daily. How's it looking like the 8-hour? 8-hour, it's kind of all over the place. It's still very much an overbought territory, but so for a retracement here, like 4, probably 450, somewhere in there. But it looks good. All this stuff looks good. You know, the real problem is what happens when this retraces 50%? You know, run the scenarios in your head if you're in a position on this stuff. If this goes down 50%, am I going to be angry I didn't take profit? A little bit. If this goes up to 12, am I going to be angry I took profit? You know? If this goes down 25%, am I going to add to that position? Just things you have to do for yourself, right? I don't know what people are doing here. Um, but yeah, it's had quite the run, obviously. So you definitely have to gauge that a little bit, right? It's up 400% on the year. You have to read the room a little. Yeah, sold TVL. I mean, we can look at TVLs, and yes, sold TVL has gone up, but what is that in SOL terms? Are you talking USD or are you talking SOL terms? What you want to see, arguably, this is DeFi Llama. What you want to see is SOL rising here in TVL terms, because of course USD should be rising. The price is up 500% on the year. Is it rising in SOL? It's not. It's actually down, unless I'm looking at the wrong metric here. I'm pretty sure I'm reading this right. Since October, in terms of SOL, it's gone down. So I would think, and you can argue with me on this, but I would think the true blue believers would continue to deposit stuff. You know, here's ETH, right? In terms of ETH. Now you may win the argument if you say most of this is stablecoin. I don't know, but it's another way to think about it, right? What is the TVL? Well, who is here for the TVL, right? Is it Solana mainly, or is it stables? It looks like it's Solana mostly. Yield, staking, dexes, derivatives. I don't know the SOL ecosystem very well, so I'm the wrong person to analyze this, but yes, it is up 2x on the year in terms of USD, right? 2x or more. But in terms of SOL, in terms of coin, definitely not. You know, you'd think if this was really bullish, this would also be up in Solana in terms of, you know, Solana terms. But maybe I'm just too bearish on TVL as a metric. Is Rune on here? Rune's probably in here, right? Chains. Is it under Thor chain? Let's take a look. All right, this is up. In USD, it's up considerably, right? But again, is that just price appreciation of the underlying? It is price appreciation of the underlying. So I'm not saying it's turbo bearish. I'm just saying it's probably not as bullish as people think it is, because they're not looking at people actually shoving Rune into this or whatever else, right? So it's just, is it a bridge? I don't even know what Thorchain is. It's embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. But what we want to see, you know, ideally, is TVLs rising in both USD and coin terms. Not quite seeing that. So yeah, Rune looks good. It's at resistance. What was the pivot? Look, I'll give you my example, okay? If I was in this since 185, you better believe I'm taking some profit at 6, okay? So probably 25% minimum profit at 6. If this runs the 24 in 2 years, am I going to be angry that I took profit at 6? No, I'm taking partial profit at 6. Ideally, you get another trade out of this thing, right? What's the 50%? 370? It's tough because there's no obvious anything here horizontal wise, right? There's no old support you can really look at. It looks like 4 is kind of the level. I mean, 3 would be amazing. Anyway, yeah, I would be taking profit a little bit for me personally. Let me just look at the volume real quick. That's the other thing, the volume. Is this traded elsewhere? Volume's just across the board. Volumes have been low and they've pushed price up a lot for the amount of volume that we've seen. Thank you, Mustafa. What even is Rune? I know of it from last cycle. I just couldn't tell you what it does. Couldn't tell you what it does. All right, I looked at Rune. Some comments. CCL Bear Bull. Yes, I will. We'll go back to that. Myrrh, bro, what is up? Thank you for joining the club. The club. Bear Bull's been looking at DIS. Yeah, it doesn't look bad. Haven't talked about Yearn yet. We'll look at that one. Talked about TVL. It's the same players, not new entrants into Sol. 3K will make you a whale on most tokens. For sure. You know, again, I don't think there's anybody. There's not that many people here in the ecosystem, right? Not yet. Peter says, watched a video on the other day, got me thinking about Uni, and if they did some kind of token buyback, with all the profits, how high could it go? Any thoughts on Uni? Yeah, so if all the tokens in the ecosystem did what Uni did, then that would maybe be more acceptable, where we're not profit sharing, essentially. We're not revenue sharing with people. You could argue that because they're the market leader, they don't need to do that. Okay, that's a fair argument. You could say, you know, Sushi and 1inch need to do it because they aren't the market leader. The same thing with the lending and borrowing stuff. You could make the same argument for Tether, right? Relative to the stablecoins. We're seeing these newer stablecoins coming online that are basically rev sharing treasury yields with the token through some sort of buyback scheme or something. But Uni's doing none of that, has no plans to do any of that. I think the most recent governance vote was voted down. They know they know what they're doing. Didn't they even raise like a separate round? It's just, what does the token do, you know? What does the token do? I don't know. It will probably move with the rest of the market, right? So I don't think this is going to be bearish on its own on an island. You could argue an Adam and Eve here on the USD token. You could argue, you know, it's an edge-to-edge setup to 18. I just think other tokens are going to have an easier time going up because people have a reason to hold them. Whereas as Uni, like, what are you holding Uni for, you know? Just price appreciation, which is fine. There doesn't need to be another reason, but it has kind of a headwind in that regard to me. You know, from a fundamental perspective, I feel like there's other stuff worth playing around with. 3-day cloud looks like it wants to attempt a move higher. Volume looks absolute garbage. Just look at this volume. There's nothing. Nobody cares about Uni. So I'm not bullish on Uni, honestly. There's also this regulatory angle where you could argue, like, look, all of DeFi is eventually going to get regulated to death. That includes Uni. They're going to have to do something, permissioned pools, something to fit into the ecosystem of traditional finance. And I'm assuming that their token is not part of that puzzle, you know. I don't think, the token's probably considered a security, right? I don't think anybody would argue otherwise. So I don't think it has a lot of great things on its side, personally, for me. I held Uni for quite a bit, too. Because I thought, hey, maybe when the markets come back, this will do better. But it just didn't, right? You know, Not yet. You know, it is early. It's very early. But I just think it's going to have a hard time. And again, from a technical trend perspective, it looks fine, right? Like I'm bashing it and saying it looks like shit because it's a garbage company, but it may break out and it might not even matter, you know. All right, let's look at Wi-Fi. Lots of people talking about Wi-Fi. I can't buy this on principle. Yeah, it looks great, right? Like, look, I'm not going to argue. The technicals are the technicals. For the most part, you know, when I pull up a chart, it's instant whether or not it looks bullish or bearish. So on the weekly cloud, it is in the weekly cloud. It has a channel breakout, right? We can measure this. Arguably, it's hit the target based on this channel, or not channel. What do we want to call this? Inverted Adam and Eve, maybe? You know? And hey, wouldn't you know, at the bottom, guess what's here? Anyway, looks good. Clearly retraced a bunch to the upside. I know a lot of people have been talking about it, so there's definitely a social sentiment aspect to it. Volume on Binance is hysterically low. So I don't know. I don't know what that's about. I'm assuming this was all just fake volume before, volumizer type stuff. This doesn't look necessarily organic either, but yeah, I don't know. I'd be taking profit on this personally here. This is another one of those things like ZRX. Like, I love the product. I love the idea of Wi-Fi. I've used Wi-Fi. I think it's great. I just don't know what the token does. I don't know what the token does. Is there even rev share? I don't even know. I couldn't tell you. What does Wi-Fi BTC look like? Kind of a down only, then randomly up. This also looks like just a bored market. You know, it's looking for things on a relative value basis that may rise. This is prime example. It was down, what is this? Probably 99%. Yeah, 96% on a relative value basis. Bitcoin's flat, not doing anything. That's how you get moves like this, in my opinion. I don't think this is this is an endorsement of Wi-Fi by any means. Yeah, so for me, it is a take profit moment, at least partially, on the USD pair. But it does look the strongest it's looked maybe since listing, honestly. The funny thing about this is people talk about unit bias, which is like, you know, I can buy 10,000 Doge, but I can only buy 0.001 BTC. The unit bias thing doesn't seem to affect Wi-Fi. I don't know why. I don't know if it's like a whale only game, where that's all who's really playing with Wi-Fi is the mega whales. I don't know. It's funny. Not for me. Not for me. All right, let's look at XMR. I forget who was asking me in the comments about XMR. We'll go to Kraken. XMR still has the ascending triangle on its side. Volume is declining, but that's what you'd expect pre-breakout. Looks okay. I've said this a million times, but the problem with Monero is it's not listed in many places, so it's just hard to access for a lot of people. I love the fundamentals. I love the coin. It's just from a regulatory perspective, it's hard to buy. I held Monero on Kraken for a long time. What's up, Scott? I did not say will she or won't she. I don't know how that got into my vocabulary, but I say it all the time, don't I? Peter adds to the uni conversation. It's crazy how he feels like one of the best products is vaporware tokens. Yeah, I agree. You'd think they're if uni connected value to the token, I think it would do phenomenal. I don't know what they're waiting on, or if they just can't from like a business perspective or legally. I don't know what their deal is. Bear Bull's rippling out here. Markets are typically frothy around Thanksgiving, Gulshi. They are. How to add chart as indicator. Oh, how to add chart indicators. So at the top, if you can see this, there's a button that says indicators, AM, and then you just type in, Ichimoku Cloud or EMA or whatever you're looking for. It'll populate. TradingView has a bajillion zillion metrics that you can look at. So yeah, XMR looks okay. Would I sit in XMR over Bitcoin? No, right? I mean, look at this on the weekly, just looks angry. It's sat, I even talked about this weeks ago. It sat at that level. Looked like it wanted to go, but then Bitcoin had other plans, So similar to LTC, I don't know why. Who are these people asking me about LTC? Litecoin does better after Bitcoin's halving. Not now. Let LTC continue to make all-time lows. So as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing here to buy for me. Just looks god awful. Absolutely awful. Oh, how do I add? So if you go next to the ticker, if you hit the plus circle, you can add the ticker from there. So on my chart, you probably notice I've got like a bunch of other tickers that you can like compare. So that's how you do that. You might need a pro sub for that. I'm not sure. All right, that was Monero. Let's look at sushi real quick. I actually had a tiny bit of sushi. I still do. That like $5, like nothing. Okay, but I was doing some staking thing in Badger DAO, and I didn't realize it was still there. It was a decent amount of money. It was like 20K USD. So that's a nice little surprise. But yeah, sushi looks okay. It got back into the range. You can see it already broke down. So you don't really have a fear of turbo bearishness at this stage. On the daily cloud, what does it look like? Daily cloud looks good. This looks like it's consolidating for more. Doesn't look horrible. I'll give you that. It's above the higher time frame clouds, arguably. I would check the circulating supply on this, and I would check tokens unlocks and airdrops. I mean, we can look because we're here. Let's look at, they have a section on this on DeFi Llama. So Sushi doesn't have any unlocks coming up by the looks of it, according to DeFi Llama. It's always something you have to watch out for. It doesn't look bad. It doesn't look bad. You can probably delete that. I'd want to see it above $1.50, I think, to be super confident, but it definitely doesn't. It looks like a tradable setup, It had this parabolic puke, flat, puked some more, and recovered. So I don't think it looks bad. It's funny, like 2021, I think, the sushi folks were talking about treasury management, and I had commented on their message board or something. Somebody got a hold of me and I was like, yeah, here's what you need to do. You need to sell all of your sushi, move it into stablecoin. Needless to say, I don't think they did that, and they did not like what I had to say. So you can also look at treasuries here on DeFi Llama. So they have, yeah, so they still have 14 million of their own token. They've got a little bit of ETH, a little bit of Bitcoin, it looks like, and a tiny bit of stablecoin. So most of their treasury is still sushi. And that's the problem with all these tokens, including Link. It's like the project is telling you indirectly that we're going to be bullish, things are going to be great, we're going to do all these things, buy our token, hold our token, while at the same time all the company wants to do is sell the token because they can't really pay. You can't pay for real world things in sushi, you know? At the end of the day, you got to sell the token to pay your people or to pay vendors or to keep the lights on. So anyway, let's look at these others real quick. Near is okay. You know, it's kind of like AVAX, kind of like ADA a little bit. It's got this giant Adam and Eve characteristic. You could argue it's above the downward channel. It looks fine. It's probably too early to call like the bottom's in here, guys. But I could easily see that charts that look like this would be a cycle bottom. You know, it's been down only for a couple of years. Near Ray, this was the one that I said looked amazing, right? I tried to buy this on Kraken, but as a US burger, I can't access it apparently. Still looks fine. You know, again, it had this multi-month range, went flat for a long time. As a cycle play, I don't hate it. It might be too closely associated with FTX. I don't know, because it is a Solana DEX, right? Radium. Just got to be careful about that from that perspective, but it looks fine. No, it looks fine. I don't know if I'd sell any here. You know, it was down 99%, right? Just let it ride. That's just me. Okay. Balancer. Surprised this token's not dead. That's the oof. That's the sad part about DeFi. Like these are great projects. These are great protocols, but the tokens are just absolute dumpster fires. So I understand why people are bullish DeFi, but to be bullish on most of these tokens doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Curve's a great example. Again, I love the protocol. It makes a lot of sense. It does work in DeFi. It is a powerhouse. It is a pillar. The token, unfortunately, I don't understand. Anyway, Balancer doesn't look bullish, right? It had a pattern. It broke down. I mean, looks quite angry down here. You know, maybe you hope for oversold conditions. Maybe you hope for a daily Kumo breakout. I don't know. Doesn't look great. Doesn't look great. Jean? We'll say Jean. Christopher. I won't pretend to be French. What's up? Toshimoku. FXS. We'll take a look at that in a second. Yeah, so that's Balancer. Looks very angry. Gosp is not here, but let's look at INJ. Unless he is here and just quiet. INJ also probably up 400% on the year. Let's check real quick. It is up, excuse me, chat. It is up 1100% this year. It is up double what Solana is up. Better put some respect on that name. Looks kind of angry up here. Maybe that's a diamond. Nope, it's a Head and Shoulders. Looks like a Head and Shoulders. Looks like Link. Looks like it wants to break down. A full daily retrace would be 13 for INJ. Probably takes a breather. It's had quite the run this year. Render, that's another good one. Because that is also up, was up a ton. Let's go up a time frame here. Lots of notes on this one. So what did we say last week? We probably said bullish Kumo breakout. We probably said resistance at 240 based on prior local top. Looks like I drew an ascending triangle, then it looks like I measured it. The measured moved from 3 to 380, and we hit that target. So to me, that trade's done for now. As a cycle play, if this is truly AI, which I don't know, but if it is, and AI is still a thing in 6 months, I'd expect it to do well over the long period, just based on that, right? I have no clue about the fundamentals. Don't listen to me. I think the breakout's over, right? Personally, I think like this is the move. You're looking at it. It happened. The measured move is, like I said, 320, 380, something like that. So I think it probably takes a breather. And if everything else starts to pull back, I don't think render is going to magically keep going, right? Let me check it. Yeah, it's above all the clouds. It needs to be above. It looks fine. It just, wrong place, wrong time, unfortunately, for render. But in a cycle sense, it should be fine. All right, what is FXS? FXS. Is this one of them? Oh, Frax. Okay. I thought it was one of like those horse racing coins or something. So does this have rev share with the stable coin? I think it might. I could be wrong. But what you'd really want to track, let's see if it's on here. You'd want to track the Frax circulating supply. At least have some idea. If they're related, which I assume they are, if I'm remembering that correctly. Yeah, so my guess is if we look at the, I don't even know if this is the circulating supply. This might just be the market cap of the token. Hold on, let me look up, let me look real quick. If you're seeing a rise in the circulating supply, which you're not, but if you were, I'd expect the token to do better. Anyway, so I would keep an eye on the circulating supply. The chart itself doesn't look horrible, right? It's technically still in the range. It's above the daily cloud, so it's got the trend on its side. It's above the old resistance at whatever this is, 7. It's got mega Adam and Eve vibes to it. If you're just trading this pattern, I like 8 to 9. But from a cycle perspective, I would pay attention to the circulating supply of the stablecoin. Right, that's got to be related in some fashion. I just can't remember. Can't remember how that's related, but I'm pretty sure that's related. I'd have to look that up. All right, Ren, real quick. Ren is a privacy-related token, kind of DeFi, kind of Tornado Cashy in a sense. Doesn't look. That's not the one, you know. It looks. It's the one in the sense that it's the token, but it doesn't look. Doesn't look happy. Does not look happy. I would rather touch other stuff personally, trade other things, than than this one. This one's also similar to Monero, huge regulatory target on its back, so you got to be careful with anything like that. All right, we got a few more. We'll wrap it up. If you want to see anything else, just let me know in the chat real quick. Cass, this one was up a bunch this year as well. Is there a Binance pair? There's got to be a Binance pair, right? Is it not even on Binance? Is it CASP? Is that why? Guess it's not on Binance. Is it because it's an exchange token? Is that why? That's probably why. It broke out of the ascending triangle. So you have that. Way above the target. If it's an exchange token and they're burning tokens, sure. It's proof of work DAG? Really? Man, you know what else was a DAG? IOTA. Does anybody remember this? Probably not. Surprised it's even still trading. Talk about a massive junk heap. This thing. This thing was, oh man. Let me just tell you. The sad thing is, it looks like it's going to have a run eventually, you know? If it's listed, it could have a run. All right, I'm being yelled at that it is not an exchange token. It looks good. Like, you know, I'd be careful. Everything else is pulling back. It's probably not going to be going to infinity on its own. It's hitting targets. Here again at the bottom, Adam and Eve. Not going to help you now, but it looks fine, right? I would be considering taking partial profit. It's up. What is it up year to date? 2,600% year to date. 25. So yeah, I would be taking some profits for this one for me personally, if this is even the right token. Yeah, it's definitely up a lot. SNX. Yeah, we can look at SNX. I liked how this set up. It looked like it wanted to break out, like somebody was saying. It still looks fine. You know, I'd rather trade this over most of the charts we looked at today because the timing looks right from a cloud perspective. The timing looks right from a horizontal resistance perspective. Looks great, you know. It's got kind of that degen access, liquidity, lending and borrowing, perps side of the market. If that takes off, so yeah, I like this. Looks good. 4 to 5 would be the expected move off of this, but if it's a cycle low, yeah, looks good. Still no volume, but looks good. We can do Matic. We'll do Matic real quick. Matic I talked about in the video yesterday. Matic is on the list for things that are problematic based on market cap. it doesn't look horrible, right? It has an Adam and Eve inside of an Adam and Eve. It probably does something at $1. That's the psychological resistance. It looks okay, you know? Absolutely no volume on Binance, right? Look at that. Nothing. Matic BTC. This is Atom, which trades very similarly, but Matic BTC had been super oversold. Bounced on the pivot, bounced on the low. Does not look happy right now. I think I was talking about some key June. Yeah, so the 3-day. I just think there's better things to trade, you know? Personally. Like, I'd rather trade SNX over this. Maybe at $1 it looks better. Kadena. Yeah, let me look at Kadena, then we'll look at BTC over TLT, which is, that's at infinity, is it not? Is it KDA? That's looks correct, right? Yeah, I mean, you know, in my book, anything, no matter what pile of junk it is, that has paid its dues in the bear market, went down 99% and is starting to bottom on a multi-month time frame. This looks like it has a shot, okay? I don't know what percentage. I don't know if it goes to 5. I don't know any of that. What does the weekly cloud say? Weekly cloud says 15. I'm going to ignore that for now. 15 would be the 50% retracement here. But it has a bottom type of behavior down here. I think the next move would be to $1, right? Psychological resistance. And then you see what happens from there. So I do like accumulating in this range and figuring it out at $1. If it's a cycle low, Cloud likes 15. Okay, but that's like a multi-year potential. I don't know what this is, so I don't even know if the fundamentals make sense there, but Crypto Jake asks if I'm worried about the pullback. No, we talked about it in the beginning. I think it's to be expected with everything up as much as it is. Risk in general looks angry on the legacy side. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Haven't talked about curve yet, Trevor, but I can pull it up. BTC USD divided by TLT. So, you know, you got to think about, we're getting these institutional products to the market, right? There are people selling these products. I only know about this because I worked with Valkyrie, right? And we tried to get products to market. We tried to sell products to institutional folks. You have to give them a reason to want to buy this, to want to buy BTC, right? So you present data like this. You say, look, these are the correlations. These are the price action movements. Here's what we look like now. Here's what we look like relative to halving. Here's where we are in the cycle, right? And if someone is considering a portfolio and allocations, and they see something like this, I think the argument is pretty compelling that, hey, look, maybe BTC is an option, you know? We're about to hit an all-time high on the ratio relative to TLT. So if, which I think most people think this way, if TLT continues to go lower because yields go higher, I would expect this to break an all-time high. I certainly expect Bitcoin to go higher, and I certainly expect Bitcoin to outpace TLT. So I think that's a great argument to own Bitcoin in a portfolio, right? So I really like this chart. Thanks for bringing it up. Crypto Jake, right? No, Space DD. Spaced. We'll call him Spaced. He brought it up. I think, what's his name? Dylan LeClaire talks about this a lot. A lot of people talk about this, but if we are bringing these products to market, we need to give a reason for people to buy them, right? And it's analysis like this that makes that argument very easy, in my opinion. All right. Curve, 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 curve. So I said, which is the case for most of DeFi, like I love the product. I love what it does in DeFi. It's a pillar of DeFi. And I can see how, similar to Uni, people would get trapped into this mindset like, this product is amazing. It does massive volumes. The coin has to be worth a lot. You know, I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. It's got a lot of baggage with all the OTC buyers at 40 cents. It doesn't look super happy down here. Does it have a W double bottom? Sure. Like, is this a tradable chart? Absolutely. But you just got to be careful not to become a community member here because it doesn't look like a bullish chart to me in the long term. So I wish I had better things to say about Curve. I just don't. You know, I want Curve to do well, but the token is silly, in my opinion. Carnival Cruises. This is a legacy chart. How far back? Can we go monthly? Man, I saw a wild, speaking of megaphone patterns, I saw a wild chart that had, it wasn't this, it was something else, but maybe it was the S&P that had a megaphone. This is like impossible to trade. What do you do? Like, assume this goes to all-time highs? That's basically what this is saying, but yeah, for some reason people are going on cruises again. I don't know. Looks okay, right? I don't hate it. Cloud doesn't love it, but it's a wild looking chart, that's for sure. I don't have anything to say about it really. Just super interesting. Amp, 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 amp. All right, we'll do one or two more, then we'll wrap it up. That way the recording enjoyers don't hate me. Coinbase? Is it on Binance? Poloniex? I don't even know. Well, it looks angry. I mean, what? Who asked me about this? Amp. Sham Prasad? Sham? What does one hope to get out of this trade? If it's an airdrop, I wouldn't sell it. You know, here's a great example for me, right? I've got ENS. If this is an airdrop, in your case, I've got ENS, Ethereum name service token. It's given to me, right? It's an airdrop. Why would I sell this until it's back to 20? Like, I have no plans to let go of this thing. It's free. Cost basis is 0. There might be some tax implications, but yeah, I put an alert at 20 for this thing, and I'm just gonna forget about it, you know? So you have to find your level if this is an airdrop. I don't know what it actually is, but you have to find whatever level you think is appropriate, right? It's gonna have a tough time going up if it is an airdrop because there's gonna be a lot of people looking to sell it, right? Eventually. As a trade, doesn't look horrible, you know? It's just, it hasn't really had bullish momentum. This looks like a chart that's an airdrop, you know, something that's continually bleeding. Thanks, Joey. Any book recommendations for noobs? Non-noobs? I do not have a book recommendation, unfortunately. people ask me about books so much that it's just come to the point where I need to like write something. I have a bunch of blog posts on my Medium, but I think I need to finally put something out there so I can tell people, yeah, read my book. Yeah, exactly. Spaced. The failed inverted Head and Shoulders on curve is not something you want to see if you're bullish, right? Now, to its credit, it has recovered, it has made that W. But yeah, doesn't look super happy in my opinion. What do I say to people who assert greater fool theory? I say, sure, number go up. I don't care. I'm not really here to sell it at a higher price. I'm here because I don't like the legacy finance system. I don't like the legacy political system. I think it's all just dumb, and we need a peaceful protest against it. Taki's a member of the Atmosphere Aficionados, recommending a few books. I'll have to check them out. I actually do have a book. I don't want to talk about it yet because I haven't finished it, but I do have a book recommendation. It's from like 1500. It's talking about the Amsterdam stock market. It's hilarious. When I finish it, I'll talk about it, but it's a great book. It's a tough read because it's super old-timey in the references, but it's a great book. It's like confusion. It's. I'll just look it up. It's not really a. I don't want to dox myself, but this is the name of the book. It's not about Tulip Mania. 1688. It's about like the earliest documentations of what the stock market was in that time. Anyway, it's super interesting. All of the same stuff exists now. It's kind of wild. Oh, there's so many corollaries and parallels to today. That's the book I would pick up. It's like $6.50. Okay. The only thing that pisses me off, the binding is super tight, and the words like bleed into the binding, and it's hard to read for that. So I wouldn't get a physical copy is what I'm trying to say, unless you like physical copies. I have not read a single advanced TA book. Maybe that's why I'm so bad at TA. No. I haven't read one. All right, anything else? Moki, good to hear about the miners. This is not financial advice, so hope that's very clear to everybody. Similar to DeFi, like we want the DeFi tokens to do well. We want miners to do well, Bitcoin miners, I think, most people. I just think it's a tough business. They're going into halving, hash rate's going to infinity. It's a dog eat dog, zero sum game. You just got to be careful, assuming that like miners are going to do amazing, which they might, right? As they sit here now, almost all of them look like this, where yes, there's a potential for a move to some edge-to-edge cloud target, right? But what I'm more worried about is this macro head and shoulders on all of these. So I would just be careful. I would just be careful. The other thing to think about is like Marathon has a bunch of BTC. If BTC does well, Marathon may trade the like BTC. He may trade as a BTC instrument. If BTC pulls back for whatever reason, expects the miners to get slaughtered. Okay, so you just got to be careful. Got to be careful. Piruzzi, I will put together a list of traders. If you go into some of my earlier videos, I talk about a few people. Chaos Trader is one, Rob Booker is one, I wouldn't buy their courses. I wouldn't sign up for anything that they're selling. Okay, so I don't want to endorse that. But they both have free stuff online to look at. Last question. Very few. Can you DM me? Yeah, on Twitter you can DM me. How do I look at Coinbase premiums relative to, what do you mean? Do you mean like Bitcoin prices? If you ever want to put together like, I think I might actually have this already. You can do that in TradingView. Yeah, Chaos Trader taught me the cloud 10 years ago, you know? So he definitely knows what he's talking about. I don't trade the cloud exactly like he does, but he's a great place to start. Yeah, Miner's got a whole bunch of business stuff that they're dealing with. Is this it? If this isn't it, we can just make it. No, that's not really it. So if you look at, is this some sort of index I made? If you want to see the Coinbase premium, you pull up Coinbase's Bitcoin or whatever pair, right? And then you have to subtract Binance, let's say, or whoever, right? You can subtract a group or the index. Let's just do index. Index BTC. You have to take it off of log. Turn off these indicators. And I like to make this big because I'm getting old and I can't see anything. Where is this at? 24? Sure. Put a horizontal at 0. So here you can see the premium, the Coinbase premium, and then we can add the price chart if you want. Oops. Trying to get this to unlock. Anyway, that's one way to do it. There you go. So you got the premium, Coinbase premium on the bottom for BTC, and then you've got the price up here. Generally, when there's a Coinbase premium, like 2017, that means money is flowing in, right? That means we're seeing retail probably, or institutions using Coinbase. So we may start to see a premium on Coinbase if the BlackRock stuff hits Coinbase, right? This doesn't look like it's calculating correctly, probably because I messed up the equation. What do I do? This divided by 100 or something? That doesn't make sense either. Anyway, is it because it's in percent? There we go. Anyway, that's one way to do it. Yeah, if that's what you're asking. I hope that's what you're asking. Aquarius, thanks for the super. One day, can I do a video reviewing your top 10 favorite indicators in TradingView? Yes, I will. That'll be next week's. Not next week because of Thanksgiving. That will be next week after next video, Teaching Tech Tuesday. Top 10 indicators. Just making a note so I remember. And with that, we're off. You can see it on CryptoQuant. Yeah, so Ver, anything you want to do, you can generally do in TradingView. You just treat the ticker box as like a math equation, right? So if you want to get a CME premium or whatever premium or whatever you want to do, right? Just use it and it'll know what you're talking about. You just have to make sure you're using the right exchanges. That's all. Andrew, we talked about Rune. Did I look at Coin? I did. I like Coin. I'd spent 10 minutes shit talking it from fundamental perspective and then 30 minutes saying it looks great to 200. So it looks fine. Ryan, I think it hits 200 this cycle, honestly, at least. All right, guys. I'm Audi 5000. I'll put the timestamps in the stream probably tomorrow. I'll do that or later tonight if you're watching this. Hope we had a good time here. And I think we're recording maybe tomorrow with Ledger, and then I'll be back Sunday on YouTube. Some more videos. Setup Sunday. That's all I got for this one. Dislike, share, subscribe, whatever, the good stuff, you know? Thanks, everybody. Take care.